Earlier this week, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith introduced Bill 54. This nearly 300-page electoral reform document is being sold as a democratic upgrade. In reality, it reads like a blueprint for quiet, calculated separatism. Marketed as a way to empower the people, the bill actually lowers the threshold for referendums, making it much easier to force votes on divisive issues like Alberta's potential separation from Canada by slashing the number of required signatures. It also rewrites election rules. Vouching is gone, strict ID laws are in, and voters are now locked into their assigned polling stations. That hits marginalized groups the hardest, especially young people studying away from their rural home ridings. It's all dressed up in dry, bureaucratic language, but the intent is loud and clear if you're paying attention. More importantly, it's part of a pattern. Bill 54 is just the latest stitch in Smith's DIY separatist project. First came the Alberta Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act, which gives the province power to ignore federal laws it doesn't like. Then came talk of pulling out of the Canada Pension Plan entirely and replacing it with the provincial one. Then talks of a provincial police force, as if the RCMP, trusted for over a century, suddenly isn't good enough. Brick by brick, Smith has been building the legal and institutional foundation for an independent Alberta. She swears she's not a separatist, kind of like your ex swore he wasn't cheating while sending midnight dick pics to his hot coworker. But, much like your ex, her actions are speaking louder than her words. Bill 54 dropped just one day after the federal Liberals secured a fourth term, a result Smith called a disaster for Alberta. It followed months of attacks on federal climate policy and net zero regulations, which she claims unfairly targets Alberta's oil and gas industry. In that context, streamlining referendums isn't about empowering democracy at all. It's a tactical response. It's retaliation dressed up as reform. But wait, there's more. Smith has surrounded herself with advisors and allies who openly support separatism. Many helped draft the Sovereignty Act and have deep ties to Alberta independence movements. Former Wild Rose Party figures, now embedded in her government, have long pushed for a radical rethinking of Alberta's place in Confederation. Her administration has even bankrolled research into so-called provincial autonomy initiatives, programs designed to make separation easier to execute. What's even more troubling is that the bill is completely silent on Indigenous consultation. While it doesn't formally strip the Crown's duty to consult, it includes no mechanisms to involve Indigenous nations in referendum processes. That's not a slip-up. It's a deliberate omission, a legal and ethical failure. Indigenous nations in Alberta hold treaty rights that are protected under Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982. Any move towards separation would directly violate those treaties that legally bind Alberta to Canada. Ignoring Indigenous consultation suggests Smith's plan has always included bypassing these obligations, erasing Indigenous jurisdiction and land rights in the process. And while I'm not usually one for conspiracy theories, there are some troubling signs about Smith's potential long-term game. Her repeated visits to the United States and ties to Republican figures raise real questions about her motives. Some speculate there may already be informal deals in motion, aligning Alberta with American interests, maybe even setting the stage for a merger if Alberta manages to break away from Canada. I'll talk about Wexit in a future video, but right now we need to talk about the quiet horror of Bill 54. This isn't a minor tweak to provincial election laws. It practically rewrites them completely. It lowers the bar for referendums, sidesteps Indigenous treaty obligations, and makes it harder for young Albertans and marginalized communities to vote. Meanwhile, the bill makes it quite easy for snowbirds who tend to vote conservative, FYI, to cast special ballots from afar. Odd, isn't it, that the same courtesy isn't extended to post-secondary students studying out of province? But then again, they tend to vote left, so why would Smith care? This isn't democratic reform. It's political engineering. It guts public deliberation, sidesteps constitutional checks, and quietly builds a backdoor to separation. At this point, the real mystery isn't whether Smith wants out of Canada, it's how much longer she plans to pretend she doesn't.